living la vida low carb. This show is changing lives. We talking about your diet, trying to get you feeling right. Cut up them avocados, fry some eggs. Time to explore the longest running health podcast, hosted by Jimmy Moore. Time to give up the crappy garbage. We're getting into ketosis. Every day is a new step to your goal. Yeah, you're getting closer, motivated and focused. Don't stop, just go. Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com.
That right there is Joy Hahn Worthington. She is Joy of the Grind Carney over on Instagram.
That's right.
At the very end. What's that?
So yeah, keeping that carnivore lifestyle running. It's good.
Sorry, you can't hear me when I'm talking, I guess, because we're talking a little bit over each other. So just be cognizant of that. So what did you say? I'm sorry.
I said that carnivore lifestyle is amazing.
I have heard.
Yeah.
I've been doing it now for about 3.5 years myself, so enjoy it a lot. But I recently put out the call, hey, if anybody wants to be on my podcast to tell your story, make your pitch. And Joy sends me this message, and she says, yeah, dude, I think that more people need to realize the carb connection to anxiety. I had very bad anxiety, and as soon as I removed the carbs from my diet, I was able to see massive healing in that. So that's why you're here today. Joy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's fun to be here.
Yes, yes. So tell us a little bit more about who you are, how you got diagnosed, I suppose, with anxiety, because it's one of those kind of things that it's not easily identified. People just start feeling physical manifestations. They're like, what's wrong with me? And not realizing they have anxiety. So tell us a bit of your story.
I kind of did, I think like a lot of people do. I had a crazy afternoon, shopping, running too long, little babies that were crabby, traffic, just all the things that would be normal stressors. And got in the middle of a store and started really feeling bad and thinking, okay, I don't feel normal. I feel like something's definitely feels weird. I was shaky, my heart was pounding, and it was kind of out of the clear blue. So that was, anxiety breeds anxiety, unfortunately. And so the more anxious you get about how crappy you feel, the more anxiety you get.
Yeah.
And really, by the end of that afternoon, I couldn't figure out why I had felt so bad. I got home and I ate something. I thought, you just need to eat, you'll feel better. And within about 20, 30 minutes, I was doing it again. Only now I was in a controlled environment, so I was sure that I was having a heart attack or, something god-awful was happening. So we ended up going to the hospital, and they said, no, you're fine. It's just stress. It's anxiety. It's Christmas. Everybody's stressed out. Okay, I'll take that. So I took home. They said, well, you know what? Your blood sugar was a little bit low, so you may want to, up your sugars a little bit. Okay. So that started me on a 20+ pound weight gain. And every time I would go in, they got to where they knew me by name. I go in their emergency room, hello, and me again. I was in there so often. And every time I would go in there, they would hit me up with more glucose, tell me I needed some more fruits, I needed to carry nuts and fruit around with me. I was chopping apples and doing all kind of stuff.
So Joy, how long ago was this?
That was about 7-8 years ago.
7 or 8 years ago, around Christmas time, you have your first hypoglycemic episode.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
You go to the doctor, they see the low blood sugar. Oh, you're just stressed, you're anxious. And what people don't realize is the hormonal connection of stress is just like eating carbohydrate, except you're not getting any carbohydrate in there, but the insulin. But why your blood sugar drops is you have this production of insulin because of your cortisol, but there's blood sugar that goes along with it that the carbohydrates will give you. And so that's why you start to feel this bad. And so then they feed you sugar, which spikes your sugar. You feel great for a period of time, but then you have the huge crash from sugar. And it's such a that's why I did the roller coaster thing on the screen. Is I don't think people realize, and especially these medical professionals, they didn't really help you with that advice. No.
In fact, then they started telling me, after a couple different trips of that I probably needed to see, a psychiatrist. I just wasn't managing my anxiety very well. And So you're starting to think, okay, this is all in my head. I'm somehow manufacturing this horrible thing, and I don't even know why, And so, but I'm telling you, I did past life regressions. I've done hypnotherapy. I've taken pills out the wazoo until they made me manic and just about crazy, And it was something so simple. If I had just had somebody say, hey, cut the carbs, cut the sugar, try it for a week and see what happens,
But the problem is mainstream medicine knows about as much about nutrition as a plumber knows about how to fix your lawnmower. Not very. So, like, seriously, they're not trained in it, and yet people assume that, Joy. And you probably at the time thought, okay, well, these are the best and brightest in the medical world.
Yeah.
Everything about health. Surely, if there was something in what I was doing vis-a-vis my diet or something else, they would be able to identify it. But see how many patients are just like you. They go there and they're like, well, it must be in your head, Joy. Go see a shrink.
Right. That was the crazy part of it, is feeling like you've lost yourself, because you start to wonder about your own sanity, and where you fell off the wagon at. And then I remember asking one of the nurses in the hospital, I said, is there any possibility that this is related to blood sugar? And she goes, oh, no, honey, you're fine. Here. And they gave me pineapple juice to drink, little tiny ones. And they told me I need to start setting my clock about every 2 hours. So every 2 hours, even throughout the night. No, I kid you not. Throughout the night, I set an alarm to wake up every 2 hours, like an infant, to feed myself.
I believe you, because I've actually talked to those people before, and yeah, let's balance blood sugar by eating sugar every 2 hours. That makes total sense, right? Like, the reason they do that, by the way, is they know that at 1 hour postprandial, you're going to get the maximum glucose typically, and then it'll start to come back down. And as it's coming back down to that 2 hour postprandial, you take another shot of the pineapple carbohydrate, and it shoots it back up. So it's literally making you do this every 2 hours, and you feel that.
Oh yeah, and I was exhausted, because it was like being up with a 5-week-old every 2 hours. I was insane. And then the more off your sleep gets, the more off your hormones get, the more off everything gets. And sleep apnea, you name it, I started having it. I had never had that before. And they said, oh, well, now you need to wear this mask. And I'm thinking, I am falling apart. I mean, I don't know. I hit 50 and the bottom fell out,
Well, and let's back up a little bit. It's all predicated on, Joy, there's something wrong with you. Not something with what you're doing. Maybe something you could alter, maybe a drug that you need to be taking. There's something wrong with you. And like, that messes with your head. And this is why I wanted you on here today. You're very typical of how the mainstream medical system treats people dealing with anxiety, dealing with head stuff that manifests like it was for you. So how did you find the low carb diet?
It's funny, because I kind of slid into it accidentally. I had such a sugar low that it triggered a seizure and ended up back in the hospital again.
Are you epileptic?
My grandmother was, and it's not supposed to be hereditary, but that's what they passed it off as. But that definitely, it was in the 40s when I got to the hospital, so I was really in trouble. Whoa. And someone told me, you might want to try a ketogenic diet, because it's been proven to be good for epilepsy.
Yes. Okay.
So I thought, well, I'm going to research this, because I have nothing left to lose. I was losing my mind. I had gotten to where my my phobia from not knowing what was going to happen to me when or how had gotten where I was so locked in the house I hadn't hardly gone anywhere for like 5 years. It had gotten insane. And so I needed anything, whatever I could try. And I saw you, and I thought, no, that's for people that are trying to lose weight. This is this crazy way of eating, because I was a trainer and personal trainer for 10 years. I knew all about my macros, and I was eating well. So it didn't make any sense to why I needed to try it, but I was desperate, and I did. And the more I started pulling carbs out, the more clear-headed I got, the more I was able to think, and I wasn't in a fog, and my heart wasn't racing every couple of minutes, and And I thought, this is something. This is something. I've got to figure this out. And then I continued to read, and I read about, Sean Baker. I started following the typical crowd and thought they are just so extreme. But at this point, I'm ready. I was ready for something. And within a week, I hadn't had any panic attacks. None. That was like a miracle. I was ready to walk on water or something. So.
Yeah, we're going to leave Jesus there for a second. So,
right.
Were you on any medications prior to cutting carbs and kind of going carnivore? Did you ever take medication?
I did. Yeah, I did. I took it for quite a few years.
What did you take? Paxil for the panic attack?
Oh, I took Paxil. I took Cerazone. I took amitriptyline. I was hooked on Xanax like crazy. Those things are like my candy,
Unfortunately, Xanax is one that is way overused, and Paxil is one when you start having those panic attacks. What I have found interviewing people and talking to various experts over the years, a lot of these things manifest as or manifest as a result of deficiencies in various vitamins. So not just for carbing yourself, but maybe vitamin D levels being too low. And so then you get those up to sufficient levels, and then suddenly the need for Paxil goes away, and then you cut the carbs, and then suddenly the need for these other medications go away. Did you find you were just dropping those medications left and right because you felt better?
I stopped. I remember when I stopped Paxil, a Boost Par. I stopped those because I knew they were messing with my chemistry. I could feel that my brain was just not. I kept going in saying, "Look, I'm not crazy. I'm not even anxious. In fact, I'm not even anxious until I start feeling anxious. Then I get really anxious." You know. So it was like it didn't fit the model of what they kept trying to tell me what was happening to me, and I was like, "No, that's not the order that this is happening. I'm fine till the bottom falls out. Now I'm not fine, and then there's this cycle." And so the hardest thing was not taking the Xanax, because I knew that was my safety. Like, okay, if my sugar starts falling, but I didn't know that was. So if I start getting, I would say I'm getting that creepy feeling, and that was like my heart's starting to race and starting to feel this agitation. Then I knew I could take that, but I didn't realize that medication actually ups your sugar level. Go figure. But nice if someone had told me that. I smoked for 10 years because every time I tried to quit, I would have so much anxiety. Nicotine ups your sugar level. Everybody gets crabby before they eat, want to go outside, smoke a cigarette, feel better. When I look back at it now, it's glaringly obvious, but it took, 20 plus years of hell to get to here, so.
And again, that is not an atypical story. Most of us that found low carb, keto, carnivore, real food, we went through before we found these things. And it's why I'm so passionate in my work of doing my podcast and all the things that I do, is I feel like the online world kind of streamlines a lot of this information. You found me and different people because you were so desperate for answers when the mainstream medicine community was pretty much just saying, "You crazy girl, not on your own."
Yeah, and then they actually do more harm than good, which is sad to say, because not only do they misdiagnose you, but then they also convince you of this need for their medication and that you're crazy, and and we were never crazy. We were just metabolically challenged.
And the connection for why they do that, they get paid by pharmaceutical companies that patient exhibits X symptom, you prescribe X drug, and if you get them on that drug, you get a kickback. Like it's unfortunate that that's the way medicine works now. And it's why I pretty much stopped going to see a mainstream doctor unless I break my arm or slice my leg open or something. Then I'm going to see mainstream medicine. But otherwise, I'm going to talk to functional medicine doctors. I'm going to talk to, nutritional specialists, people that kind of are in the know of root causes. And the root cause of what you were dealing with your anxiety and panic attacks was not anything more than you had over carbohydration, basically, and you get that cut. And so good for you finding the answers on your own. And so now you're out there, you're like, rah, let's get this message out there, which is why I wanted you on my show today. And again, for those of you that came in late, this is Joy Hahn Worthington, Joy of the Grind Carney over on Instagram. Go check her out. Do you do any kind of consulting, helping people, or is this just a passion project?
More of a passion project. Anybody that's, sits next to me for more than 5 minutes is gonna, get encouraged.
Sounds like me. See, I usually don't open my mouth unless I'm asked. And if somebody asks me a question, I'm going to give you the answer. Whether you want to hear it or not, you did ask. So,
That's right. That's right.
Yes, yes. So, okay. So you were able to go on did you start keto and then go carnivore? Or did you go full carnivore?
No, I wasn't brave enough to do that full carnivore. That stuff scared me to death. I did the keto, and I thought I was just, crazy changing my diet. I mean, no bread. Who lives without bread,
Yeah. So how did you learn about keto? What were the resources you used? How did you find out?
I did a lot of looking online, and just I didn't even understand what the word was. I was like, what does this even mean, keto? It didn't make any sense to me. And the more I started realizing that the fat was what you were using for your energy source as opposed to the carbohydrates, I was like, okay, now this is starting to click for me. I understand now what I'm doing. And I'm one of those inquiring mind has to know. So I had to look up everything and find out scientifically why it was working, what it was doing. And the more I started to study, the more I saw myself, in there. And I thought, this is for me, this is for me.
What's your background? Did you have science mindedness? Did you go to college and get a degree in anything that's related to this, or what?
I should have. I think I did the School of Hard Knocks. No, I actually wanted to be a licensed nutritionist is where I started. And I started studying that. Kind of fell into personal training and loved the gym, loved doing that, and loved helping people. So kind of the same vein. Yeah. And really hit a wall when I started having so much trouble. And then it was kind of like physician heal thyself. You had to take your own, I just learned I can't trust other people to take care of me because no one else knows what I feel,
Well, so. And I think that is the model that I try to communicate in my work is stop trusting doctors to give you all the answers for health, that you are really your own best doctor. There was a friend of mine, Dr. William Davis. He's famous for the Wheat Belly book series, but he wrote a book that was really good about this called Undoctored. And it was encouraging people to stop basically paying attention to what doctors say and realize that you as the patient are the boss in that, and that they're merely consultants, and that you should really stop trying to seek the medical profession when you have a health issue and try to figure it out on your own, because N=1, something I've been a big proponent of for a very long time. Test on yourself to see how you do. That's what you did to overcome your anxiety. Definitely.
I think there's so much trust. And I'm not saying that, I don't need my doctor. If I cut my arm off, I want him there and I want him to know what he's doing. But when it comes to nutritionally trained, there's just so few that actually have enough of that. And how could they possibly know every single person's, situation? I think you have to be your own advocate for your own health. I really do. And I think taking responsibility for that is really big.
Real Good Foods is one of the fastest growing frozen food companies in the U.S. Everything they make is nutrient dense, high in protein, low in carbs, and made from real food ingredients. Instead of using processed flours, everything they make is 100% grain-free and gluten-free, which is how they keep their carbs so low. They can be found at Costco, Walmart, Target, Kroger, and in almost every grocery store nationwide. Or you can order online. Check us out today at realgoodfoods.com and at Real Good Foods on social media.
So Joy, I cut off my left arm and left leg, but I'm all right. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Dad joke.
Oh, you're not right.
Somebody's going to joke later.
That's right.
Or, what'd you say?
Oh, my.
About your anxiety today, do you still have moments? And here's a really good one. When you get stressed, stress, even in a good, healthy, nutritional state, can induce that anxiety still. So does that happen? And then if so, what do you do to mitigate it?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I really wanted it to be the magic bullet and to just solve all of life's problems. And it doesn't. Life is stressful. And that was the other thing about wanting to talk today, is that, everywhere you go, somebody's telling you how stressed they are, whether it's the pandemic or wear a mask, don't wear a mask, get a shot, don't get a shot. I mean, there's so much of that going on, and there's so much anxiety. People are anxious over every decision. And so anxiety is at such a huge high right now. And I thought, what, if more people could just calm their mind down, calm their brain down, calm their body down, you would have a lot better faculties to make those kinds of decisions with. And you're not running in a fear-based kind of mindset. So yeah, I still have them. But what I've realized is that I now have almost like this built-in time to think about this stress and go, okay, how do I want to think about this? How do I want to deal with this? How do you know what I'm saying? Where when you're in a full-blown anxiety, you can't think.
No. So
yeah.
Thank you. Preemptive is the word here. Like
yeah.
Before it starts, have a plan of action in place. I'll tell you, I've had my fair share over the past couple of years with what we've been all going through, personal issues in my own life, where I've had to come up with like plans. And so let me tell you some of the things that I do to deal with my own anxiety. So obviously just stopping and breathing deeply, like just kind of get yourself to relax a little bit. I also stand in my backyard. My chickens are back there. Sunshine on me. I'm grounding into the ground. There's just something magical, that energy that happens when you do that. Doing something fun is something else that I do that helps as well. And then there's this thing, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, where you kind of reframe of it's not as bad as your brain is telling you that it is. So those are some of the things that I do. Do you have any other tricks you want to share?
I do a lot of those same things, and especially when it comes to the breathing, that 2 breaths in and then that just 1 release out, kind of give yourself a reset.
Yeah. 4, 7, 8, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 7, and then you breathe out for 8. That is.
I try that, but I hyperventilate. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong.
Yes.
But,
holding for 7, I guess, is the hardest part, or the blowing out 8 is also pretty hard. But
right. Yeah. But I'm like you. I try to do something, something constructive, so that I feel like at the end of the day, there's something that I've accomplished, something that's fun, something stupid, doesn't matter, whatever it is, dance around the room if I need to, something that kind of lifts your spirits, and then something that kind of educates your mind, and keep yourself ever moving and ever adjusting. And I think you don't stagnate that way. I think you do control your stress. And I love grounding. So I'm outside with my flip-flops off and feet in the sand. So.
Oh, I love it. I have to avoid chicken crap in my backyard. But other than that, I'm pretty free to put my feet in the ground. So give me a song that you like, that you dance to.
Oh, gosh. I grew up as an 80s kid. So,
80s. So let's go. What you got?
I have to pull up my Pandora playlist.
I was going to say, I'm going to ask ALEXA to play something. How about Wake Me Up Before You Go Go?
There you go.
Alexa, play Wake Me Up Before You Go Go everywhere.
Wake me up before
We're going to
you go
dance
go.
here, Joy. This is how I
Sweet.
roll.
Dance party. Word.
Get a bug. Get a bug.
Oh, that's fun.
You got to dance now. Alexa, stop. Nobody wants to get more dance, I promise.
Like, need lunch.
Life is too short to not have fun in it, right?
That's right. That's right.
So tell us what your diet looks like in kind of the day to day. Is it just? You went full bore carnivore eventually after?
Yeah.
So tell us, number one, why did you go ahead and take the plunge to that crazy diet, as you called it earlier? What made
I did so well on keto, and I loved it. I loved how I was feeling. And I thought, you know what? I'm one of those people, let's push it a little bit further and see what happens. And so my carnivore was just that little bit further. Let's just see if I can feel better. I went from, walking, riding. I ride my bike. That's kind of my downtime. And I was riding 5-7 miles, feeling pretty good about that. And I started keto and I was riding 10-15 miles. And I thought, man, I have energy. This is just crazy. So I went carnivore. I said, I'm going to do it a week and see what happens. And within a week, I was riding 30 miles and I was running circles around all over the place. And I had more energy than I knew what to do with because I wasn't constantly fatigued, fighting this sugar all the time. I didn't want to go to bed because I still had stuff I wanted to do. And, it was amazing, the energy change. And everybody walking around me is going, okay, what are you taking? What are you doing? Just eating meat, baby. Eating meat.
Get a little bit older, like you and I are, people just assume you're just going to go downhill and you won't have more energy. You're just going to, mental faculties, things are just going to go haywire and it's all downhill after 45, 50. And so, no. Look at Baker. He's what, 53, 4, whatever he is. And like, he doesn't look like he's suffering at all in his health.
He's a stud.
Is a bona fide stud. And so definitely an inspiration to a lot of people, which is why his work is so influential. But like I tell people, I love this kind of way of eating, the keto carnivore, because of the brain health benefits. Because at this, I could run scholastic circles around 20-year-olds. And that's amazing because a lot of people our age, well, you're not supposed to have mental faculties about you anymore.
Yeah. It's sad how easily we've turned over a lack of health and just assumed that that's the new normal. And it so isn't,
Well, society even ingrains it in us, all pun intended.
I
believe that's the inevitable. In fact, they call Alzheimer's disease all-timers disease for that. Well, it's just an old person's disease. Not realizing that Alzheimer's is just a manifestation of out-of-control blood sugar and insulin levels. So it goes back to that yet again. So all the panic attacks, it's all this brain chemistry that gets calmed down when you kind of eat properly.
Yeah, it was amazing. I almost feel like there was so much inflammation. They had already diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. I mean, there was a lot of other things going on. And they all went away.
Yeah, I hate that diagnosis of fibromyalgia, by the way, Joy, because it's kind of a catch-all of, we don't know what the hell this is. So fibromyalgia, like seriously, anybody that's been with it, it's maybe 5% of the people they diagnose with fibromyalgia actually have fibromyalgia. Most of the time it's like, we all know, and usually it's deficiencies in some vitamins and minerals or some other kind of thing that you could change in your lifestyle that would fix it. But they don't tell you.
No one ever told me to change my diet. Never mentioned it. It was as though they were completely, totally detached worlds. And now that I know better, never going back to that. Oh, and by the way, what do I eat? Ribeyes. Can I tell you, I am a ribeye fan.
Like, look, once you have a ribeye, although the price of red meat is getting extremely expensive.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So, how much?
It's crazy. I don't even know. I don't even look anymore because I don't want to feel guilty.
You just bite the bullet and buy the ribeyes. Yeah, but back when I would get some at Sam's Club for a little while. And then when the pandemic hit and all the things hit the meat factories and I started slowly seeing it go up. I'm like, ribeyes.
What stress?
Yeah, it was too much. I couldn't pay that anymore. It was a lot. It was like $50 for 5 of them. I can't do $10 a steak, not when I'm eating 2-3 of them. So So do you ever implore any fasting as part of your protocol as well, or does that happen naturally?
I tried it, the 1 meal a day thing for a little bit, but for me, my blood sugar is still recovering. I am still recovering at metabolic health, and that was too long of a time for me. But I will tell you one thing I did notice is that I was doing, in keto, I was doing a lot of artificial sweeteners, just loving all the, hey, this doesn't affect your blood sugar, so you can use as much stevia as you want to, and let's make a cupcake and what else can I create, and still really experiencing a lot of that blood sugar high and low, and was surprised. So now none of that.
Well, and here's the thing. People forget things like erythritol. Yes, it's a sugar alcohol. Yes, a lot of people subtract it with net carbohydrate.
Net carbs, yeah.
Carbs. And so if you eat even a modicum of erythritol, and it comes from corn, by the way, so you're going to get that insulin and blood sugar response from that. So keep that in mind. There's even some sweeteners that they don't affect blood sugar, but they do affect your insulin. So then you're eating this thing that doesn't have carbohydrate in it, but then it's impacting your insulin, which can give you hypoglycemia unless you
yes.
with it, which sometimes, like the almond flour carbs, would mitigate some of the drop. So it's just a scientific experiment, if you ask me. It's just easier to stick with meat and eggs, and if you can allow dairy. Do you have dairy in your carnivore?
I do, and it's my cheat. Like, I don't typically, but if I get that, I'm getting bored and I need to do something different, then I'll add a little bit in just for fun. But I try not to go to it all the time, because I could consume massive amounts of dairy.
Look, dairy is like crack for a lot of people. It's
cream cheese. Oh, yeah.
What'd you say?
Cream cheese.
Oh, put cream cheese in some chicken eggs and like scramble it. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. So delectable. But you pick your poison. Like,
that's right.
Dairy, go for it. If you find yourself maybe breaking out, maybe having sluggishness after having a meal like that, okay, something about that meal, try taking the dairy out. Some people even have an aversion to eggs itself, and so take those out for that's the fun part. Like we were talking about earlier, N equals 1. You just kind of tinker around until you figure out what's best for you.
That's right. That's right. And I do that back and forth too. I mean, there's sometimes I'm really heavy on the eggs and lighter on the other. And then the other time, just, straight meat is working for me. And I think just listening to your body, it'll tell you,
So I've got backyard chickens, Joy. And so I've got an abundance of eggs coming in every day. Probably I got 13 chickens, so to the tune of about 8 eggs a day. And so
man,
if I don't eat them for a couple of days, I've got 1.5 eggs that it's just sitting there. It's like, oh, no. So I end up giving them away quite a bit. But I do love my eggs. So I'm about to embark on a 100-day plan where to pretty much dial in my carnivore diet to just red meat and eggs, and I may allow butter in there as well for some added fat, but that's it.
Yeah.
And then water. Wow. And do that like every other day. So eat enough on those days. On those days, also do the very glycolytically demanding exercise, which I know you're a personal trainer. My favorite form of exercise, Joy, you're gonna love this as a trainer. I love to flip a 200-pound tractor tire in my yard. I'm pretty badass at flipping that thing in about 10 to 15 minutes. I get a full body workout. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm excited to kind of get going with that. And then walking, doing that as part of the protocol as well. I would love to swing some kettlebells as well, just on days that I don't want to flip the tire. So, yeah. We'll see.
That's awesome. You have to let us know how you do on that. That'd be cool.
Gee, I wonder if I had any kind of platform I could tell people about what
that's fun.
Lots of videos, lots of posts on social media talking all about it. But start September 1st. So coming up here real soon. Cool.
Well, I'm trying to wean off coffee, so you can, think of me and I'll think of you if I'm eating my dairy.
Yes, please. Pursue that. That's amazing. So as far as movement, like we know a lot of exercise can help with anxiety and depression and that as well. So do you think that maybe you staved off a lot of maybe the severest part of anxiety because of your ability to move professionally as a personal trainer? Do you think that was part of why it took so long to get there?
I don't know, but I look at it this way and say, anytime anytime you're feeling that stress, it's good to have an out, whatever it is that you love to do, do that thing, get outside of your head, walk, run, ride, whatever it is that gives you that, kind of burn off a little of that adrenaline. The other side of it for me was always a catch-22 because I would go and do all this activity and then my sugar levels would fall and then it'd be right back in the same part again. So I think the interesting thing with keto and carnivore is having a sustained a level so that you don't just hit the wall and tank. I think that is kind of incredible,
Yes. Bevy Girl had a question for you. Any advice on how you got off of Xanax? Was it as simple as just getting off the carbs?
No. Unfortunately, everything is ever just that simple. What I started to do, and really what helped my my brain health more than anything, was I started taking them in half the dosage I was allowed, and then just trying that to see, kind of a step down. Yeah. And the other side was I upped my fats, and I know that sounds, kind of crazy, but it was almost like fat was like a blanket, and it just kind of surrounded my. I don't know, I would picture in my head like surrounding like a child when you tuck somebody in and you would comfort them and calm them down. It just seemed to calm my anxiety down, and that helped a lot.
Tired of playing the mask game? Me too. That's why I wanted to tell you about the Unmask. This is a breathable, completely breathable. It covers, you can't even see that it's breathable, but it's breathable. Whether you're going on a plane, having to go into a store and wearing this thing, playthemaskgame.com is how you can get this mask. They come in all kinds of colors and everything. In fact, right there, you can see right through it what it is, but when you're wearing it, it does not look like it's anything different, but it's breathable, baby. Playthemaskgame.com.
Well, look, it makes sense because your noggin is 70% fat. And so this is where I think a lot of people that go on low fat diets, go on kind of vegan, vegetarian style diets, they're a little erratic in their brain and their behavior because they're starving for fat. So no, the idea of boosting your fat intake to make your brain settled makes total sense, because 70% fat in the brain, I guess we should probably get close to that in our diet as a percentage of calories to mimic what the brain needs.
See, I wasn't even aware of that. I just knew that I felt so much better. The other thing too, I probably should have mentioned, is when I started all this, I was probably 90% vegan. So, I mean, and I was low fat queen. Well, let me tell you, if it said low fat on it, I was buying it, and fat was the devil. So, yeah, it's no wonder that I just got totally hosed.
And Bevy Girl says she's already full carnivore, so maybe a higher fat carnivore, Bevy Girl. So it's as easy like a pat of butter on your steak or something like that. It adds a little more fat. Yeah,
definitely. Fat is an insulator, and I think even those electric charges, it even kind of insulates you there. And it definitely was so much calmer. I was almost upset that more people hadn't told me. Like, I felt like I'd been ripped off a little bit. It's like, I've struggled for so many years and told so many people, and they've all watched me struggle. And yet, why was this never a conversation? Why was it always here, take a pill, talk to somebody? It was just out of my mind that it could possibly be that simple. It really was. I'm so glad I found this way of eating, truly.
Well, you're now an inspiration to a lot of people. I'm really glad we're able to get your story out there. I'm really curious, though, because I love your story, by the way, because a lot of people go on some kind of a diet, either keto or carnivore, and you did both.
Right.
Funny, a lot of people that start keto slide into carnivore when they kind of want to get some of the things. It wasn't a weight loss story. Did you lose some weight, though, at all?
I lost probably about 10 pounds, 15 pounds, depending on, the time. So I did lose, but it was never my primary focus. I really just wanted my head back.
Yeah. Like, I love it. And that, when you started, what age were you when you started eating keto the first time?
Probably maybe 10, 15 years ago. I dabbled in it, and then I would go off because I would eat so much almond flour and so many cakes and cookies. I was such a junk food addict. I just took my addicted side and put it on another side, and I really didn't help myself. And once I really started understanding what is it I'm doing, and I started understanding blood sugar and anxiety and the correlation of hormones and insulin and cortisol, and I was like, okay, now the picture's coming clear, you know.
And that's only been the last few years that it's really
yeah.
Guys, it just show you that you might think, well, I'm just too far gone, I can't really start, I don't really have a weight problem. None of those things matter. Listen to what Joy here, like she's saying, look, I had these major issues that I had doctors telling me go see a psychiatric doctor about, and what the psychiatric doctor would have done is an eval on what your symptoms are, and then diagnosing you with, you know, some kind of clinical anxiety, panic attacks, put you on medication, and bada bing, bada boom, that's all that ever would have happened, and maybe help you talk through issues. That's it. They would have never identified this. You know what I'm looking for is a nutritional psychiatrist that embraces like, you know, how cool would that be? I'm not aware. I mean, I know there's some that use nutrition. I know one of my followers is this lady, Carnivore Shrink, does a really good job of kind of helping people come off carbohydrates, to help with a lot of the mind stuff. Dr. Melanie Joy is another one that follows my work, and she does similar with her clients and patients. So they're out there. They're just hard to find.
Yeah, it's not mainstream yet, but I'm hoping that, you know, with more voices in the crowd, maybe the message will get louder. Another thing too, I didn't even talk on, but we were able to help my brother get off of massive drugs, doing very similar protocols. So there's a lot of, I think, the coping mechanisms we use are a lot of times related to an influx, you know, of sugar, and not being able to, and I say sugar, I use that just generically for carbs, but yeah. And once you get your body more stable, then you're able to better assess, you know, mentally, where are you, and what are you dealing with? So I think it needs to be a twofold approach.
Oh, for sure. And I'm thinking about you now, like you're back to, you're still doing your personal training occasionally, right? So do you talk to some of them when they come in and maybe see them frazzled? Are you able to kind of educate while you're teaching them exercise?
Oh yeah. Anybody that knows me knows that if you stay still too long, I'm going to start asking you, so what'd you eat? You know, what'd you have for lunch? What are you doing? Yeah. Cause I start picking, but, you know, never from a bad way, but just from, you know, I feel like the person who found bread, you know, who was a beggar and said, hey, let me share this with you. Let me share this information because it is life changing, you know, and that's not an understatement or an overstatement.
Well, and a lot of your colleagues in your industry, they're just the opposite. They are carb pushers. I remember when I had a trainer at the gym down the road here, it's been a long time ago, 10, 12 years ago. I had already started low carb, and I'm in there and I'm like, you know, hey, I'd like to kind of bulk up and get muscular and da-da-da. Okay, you need to eat 300 grams of carbohydrate a day and da-da-da. And I'm like,
wait.
And he's like, yeah, man, just blow you up if you eat carbs. I'm like, yeah, I'll blow up all right, but it won't with muscle.
Oh, yes, the weight gainer shakes, I remember.
I mean, they have good-ish intentions with that, but it's just so backwards. And what's funny is the bodybuilding community, they get low carb. They understand the value of kind of targeted insulin release. So like having targeted, you know, controlled amount of carbohydrate, get that boost of the insulin, you know, build that muscle. Like it could be very powerful in that way, but they're not teaching it that way. They're just like, load up in carbs. That's how you get big. Yeah.
It's a timing thing. I mean, once you've learned to play with the timing, you know when you can have a little bit more, or when you're going to be burning that, you know, and you can tweak that. But I think a good place to start is just, we're so carb heavy in this, you know, this way of eating, of stopping. And if you stop and you ask people, what is a low carb diet to you? And they're like, a what? You know, and I'm like, okay, well, I took the bun off of my sandwich, but I had a, you know, Big Mac and a large fry. I'm like, well, you didn't really do a whole lot, you know? I mean, it really sneaks in a lot of ways. And when you really start cutting them out, then you can slowly start adding them in and see how your body feels. But I really feel like if most people realized how well they would feel, just mentally, just getting that clear-headed thoughts and you don't feel like you're dragging, and in the afternoon you don't hit that horrible slump where you're so tired you're like, I need a cup of coffee and a donut. You feel good. You have intentionality in your day, and that's a nice thing. I mean, it's hard to put a price tag on those bad boys,
I love that word, intentionality.
Yeah.
A purpose in mind. Bevy Girl says that she eats under 10 grams of carbs a day. Yeah, when you eat carnivore, you're getting nominal amounts of carbs from eggs. I think like 0.7 per egg.
Yeah.
You're getting nominal amounts from the glycogen stores in the meats that you eat. I don't even eat those, to be honest with you. And quite frankly, carnivore, it's almost impossible, if you're eating true carnivore, impossible to get more than 10, 15, 20 grams. I can't scenario if you're truly staying carnivore. Now, if you're adding in an avocado once in a while, no big deal. Do you ever do that where you just add in like sauerkraut and okay, that will go well with this dish, or do you stay pretty strict?
The only place I really I call my little cheats is my coffee. Like sometimes I'm like, I just want a cup of coffee and I don't like it black, so I do heavy whipping cream. There's some carbs in there. But like you said, if there's, an onion that's cooked into my hamburger meat or something, a little bit of that. So are there small bits? Yeah, every now and again. But I try to, kind of like the old school 80-20, you want to be as solid as you can because life is going to sneak in there in little places.
Well, and look, you've now done this for years. Part of the issue of why you had the anxiety was you had insulin resistance that was kind of out of control. You had the eat every 2 hours, have the pineapple juice. Yeah, it was crazy schedule. Have you tried having off-plan extra carbs just to see, okay, have I healed? Am I more insulin sensitive now? Maybe I won't have some of that, or is the fear of having those anxiety feelings coming back keeping you in check?
I do every now and again, especially, I'm human. The holidays come along and, 'tis the season for everything spiced pumpkin and, all this fun stuff. And I'm like, oh boy, temptation has a name. It's anything pumpkin in my world, that's pretty much a name that. But so there's times I will try, a bite or two of this or that just to see how I feel. But I know my body well enough now that I can all of a sudden, I'll be going about my day and think, hey, you know what, I got away with that. And then there's this, that creepy, dang, I'm tired. Why am I so tired? Why am I having such a hard time being motivated today? And it's like, oh yeah, you remember when you had that? Yeah, that's where that goes. And so, my body, you can lie to your brain, but your body's not gonna lie to you. The truth comes out eventually, and it'll tell you, hey, that's not how we're gonna do this thing. So, okay.
And I think that's a beautiful thing that you learn about yourself, that you get healed and you're better. You're no longer dealing with all those medications. You're off of all the medications. You're no longer having that persistence in the anxiety, except when you're stressed, and then you have all these modes that you kind of calm yourself to sometimes say, you know what? I want to see what a sweet potato is going to do to me today. Okay, I'm waiting. Hey, I'm okay. Like, whoa, like, or, oh crap, what did I just do? And learn from that.
Yeah, it's good. And we're always a work in progress. And like anything, I mean, your hormones are different from day to day, from hours to hours. What I might tolerate on one day, hormonally, I may not just be up to tolerating that day. And so going through menopause, I mean, I watched the podcast you had the other day and how much hormones, have such a play in that, and how insulin is a hormone. Most people don't realize that. It's competing with all the rest of your hormones. That's huge.
It's the master hormone that controls the whole thing. It's the CEO of your entire body. If you don't get insulin control, all the rest of your hormones are just going to be out of whack. And so that's why why we talk about it a lot in our work. It's why carbohydrate restriction is so effective at controlling that, which then has all these downregulation effects on all the other parts of the endocrine system. So it's pretty powerful. So before I let you go, do you have any aspirations to get more education, maybe become some kind of a life coach, nutrition coach, something to go along with your personal training, or are you content with what you're doing?
I am kind of already plugging into a few of those places, yeah, because I love it. You know, I've learned so much, and there's so much more to learn, you know, and that's exciting. So yeah, definitely school in my future, and I think if we encourage each other, you know, I think this format is awesome because, you know, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can just replicate and learn from you and learn where I make mistakes, and, you know, and then add that composite of knowledge. So I think that, yeah, that's amazing. I'm excited to see what happens.
Look, if I can podcast and go on camera, literally anybody can do this. I'm just a dope. But guys, go check her out. She is Joy Hahn Worthington, Joy of the Grind Carney over on Instagram. Go check her out. Give her some love. You're also, I saw you on Facebook. You're out there. You're doing your thing. And now you've done
my thing.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com. Woo!
Buddy, I gotta tell y'all about something. This fancy little drink right here. This only has 3 ingredients: water, ice, and Element. I'm so excited to be partnered with Element right now for the One Step Deeper podcast. Oh my god, let me tell you. Look at all these gorgeous electrolytes. They have so many delicious flavors, but my absolute favorite, and the one you saw me sipping on, was the citrus one, because let me tell you, it's like sipping on a margarita. So good. So if you're interested in trying these amazing electrolytes for yourself, you can go to drinklmnt.com/Jimmy for your free sample there. No, seriously, it's a free sample. All you have to do is pay the shipping. You got to try these, I'm telling you. So good.